Hello, this is Shan Chandrasekhar welcoming you to another delightful part of our Achiever series. As part of our series, we featured some of the highly accomplished people from around the world. We are very honored and privileged to present an outstanding individual, a great Canadian, who is now the leader of the opposition government of Canada. He's the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, none other than Honorable Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you.
What a pleasure.
Thank
Pierre,
you very much, Shan.
Welcome to ATN.
It's great to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Most welcome, and congratulations to you. And I've been following your, meteoric rise in the field of politics. At a very young age, it's amazing how you saw the future. You're one of the youngest elected members of parliament in the history of this country. You started off, with Stockwell Day from those days. Tell me about the early motivation for you. What attracted you towards politics? Because I know you have a degree in international relations. So tell me about this.
It was a shoulder injury, Shan. I wish I could say it was something more exciting than that, but I used to love to do sports when I was a teenager. And I was on the football team and the wrestling team, and I developed a terrible tendonitis in my shoulder. And I couldn't do any more sports. So I was bored out of my mind. And my mother, she loved politics. She would go to the local Conservative meetings in Calgary, where we grew up. And I said, well, why don't you take me to one of these meetings? Because I'm bored. I've got nothing to do after school. And she took me to the local meeting, and I met one of the local ministers, and then I just started reading books, all kinds of political books across the political spectrum. And I read about people whom I now don't like Fidel Castro, and read on the other side things like Capitalism and Freedom by Milton Friedman, the great Nobel Prize winning economist who you probably would have studied back in your university days. And I developed a philosophy that we needed to have the maximum amount of freedom and opportunity for people to make their own decisions, live their own lives, and that the government should get out of people's way and empower them to earn a great living, own a house, live in a safe neighborhood, but ultimately be the masters of their own destinies. That's the core philosophy that got me excited, even in my teenage years, and none of that has really changed. I wrote an essay for a scholarship contest in 1999 when I was 20, and it was Building Canada on Freedom.
Wow.
And it talked about how free enterprise would give people, anyone who had an entrepreneurial dream or who worked hard to build what they wanted to. And that's what you ultimately did, coming here from South India and starting up this incredible enterprise, the Asian Television Network in Canada. Look at the success that you've had. I call that the Canadian promise, and it's better than the American dream, right? Because a dream is something you kind of fantasize about, but then you wake up from it. But a promise is like a contract. If you do X, then you get Y. If you work hard, you follow the law, then you can have a great life and fulfill your dream. And that is what I've been fighting for ever since I was a teenager, getting involved in politics.
Wow. You've been an elected member of parliament now, and when you were chosen as the leader of
Yes.
the Conservative Party, that was an incredible, process, because people of the caliber of Jean Charest, you were able to overtake him in the sense the number of votes that you got. How did that make you feel at that time?
Well, when you win the leadership of a political party, there is obviously a certain excitement, especially given that it's the oldest and biggest political party in Canada. But at the same time, there's this great responsibility that falls on your shoulder. And I felt a sense of duty to get it right, to live up to the job. There's the great saying that from those to whom much is given, much is asked. So I viewed it as a great responsibility, and I approach it with humility. And I've always tried to remember that the role of a member of parliament and a prime minister is to be servant, right? The word minister literally means servant. Prime minister is the first servant of the country. And so when you ask how it made me feel the the weight that I needed to serve an incredible country and an incredible party.
That's fantastic. You were influenced by, from what I've heard, Sir Wilfrid Laurier. So tell me about that.
Well, what I like about Wilfrid Laurier is that he, first of all, he was a very practical leader who knew how to put people together. Canada, in a lot of ways, is a surprising country because it was founded by people who hated each other on the other side of the ocean. Protestants and Catholics, French and English, they'd been fighting for hundreds of years, and then they came to Canada and somehow got along. And we really haven't had any serious sectoral or religious, racial violence in our country. And when I look at Laurier, you know, he was a Catholic, but he read a Protestant Bible. He was a Quebecer, but made extraordinary efforts to get along with the English speakers. You know, he famously said, when he went to school, he said, I used to fight with the Scottish boys and date the Scottish girls, even though he was a Frenchman, and he made a point of getting along with the Scottish kids right when he was a kid. And why is that important? Because what has made Canada special is that people from all different backgrounds come to Canada, and even if they're fighting in the other part of the world, they get along here. They say, our fight outside of Canada is not a fight inside Canada. Now we are Canadians and Canadians first. And then you ask, what unites us? Well, Laurier was asked, what is the Canadian nationality? And how do you answer a question like that? Because it'd be easy in most countries. In France, the nationality is French. In England, English. In Germany, German. But Canada was already mixed up. Even back then, there were people of many different races. So he said, Canada is free, and freedom is its nationality. And I agree with that. I believe it is our highest ideal to make this the freest country in the world. And so even though he was a liberal, I greatly admire Wilfrid Laurier and would like to build on his legacy.
Wonderful.
Shan will join us after this break. Do stay with us.
You know, you worked with one of the finest prime ministers of this country, I should say, you know, none other than Honorable Stephen Harper. I've had the pleasure of knowing him, and in fact, I traveled with him on a trip overseas, on a business trip to India, on a business mission one time.
Thank you.
Now, he's a remarkable leader, and you were the Minister for Democratic Reform.
That's right.
So tell me about those days, and what did it entail, that particular cabinet position?
Well, what I try to do is bring integrity to our electoral system by requiring people have ID when they cast a vote, to make sure there's no cheating and abusing the system, but also make it easy for people to get involved in politics. You know, I tried as hard as I could to reform the Senate, but it turned out the Constitution is very hard to adjust in order to get an elected Senate. But I enjoyed working with Prime Minister Harper so much that he promoted me to be his Jobs and Housing Minister. And it was a great time. We did some excellent things. We got rid of the excess temporary foreign workers that were taking Canadian jobs, because we believe Canadian jobs should go to Canadian workers. We also had affordable homes. You know, the average housing cost only 10 years ago, when I was the housing minister, was about $450,000, and the average rent was about $950. The streets were safe. You could start a family and raise kids in your neighborhood, and it was a really idyllic time in Canada. And a lot of people say, geez, it was so wonderful under the conservative years of Stephen Harper. How did we go so wrong over the last decade?
You were the opposition critic at one time as well in finance.
That's right.
So tell me about that, you know, role that you played.
So I would say there were three things that I focused on in that time. One, I started sounding the alarm bell about how printing money was going to cause inflation. In the COVID and post-COVID period, the government started running these enormous deficits. Some of it was necessary to get people through COVID, but much of the spending had nothing to do with COVID. And they couldn't borrow it all. They couldn't find enough people to lend money. So what they did is they asked the central bank to print the money. And so over the 5 years from 2020 to 2025, Mr. Carney advised Justin Trudeau to print about $700 billion of cash. Now people say, well, isn't this great? We've got more money. Well, it's not money that makes you better off. It's the stuff that money buys, of course, food, energy, homes. And what was happening was the money supply was growing about 8 times faster than the supply of stuff that money bought. And I looked at this and I said, this is going to cause inflation. If you have 10 apples and $10 in an economy, well, it's going to be $1 an apple. And if you double the number of dollars to 20, but you still only have 10 apples, well, you're not twice as rich. Just now each apple costs twice as much.
Exactly.
I mean, if it was as easy as just creating more cash, we wouldn't even have to work. We'd just print money. And so we got this terrible inflation, and now we have 4 million visits to the food bank in Toronto every year. Just in Toronto, food bank use is up by more than 100%. Housing costs have more than doubled for the first time in our history. Young people can't afford homes. So I was, as the finance critic, I was banging the desk saying, stop printing money. You're going to destroy our purchasing power and cause an inflation crisis. And of course, a year or two later, that's exactly what happened. And so now I'm using that experience to say, let's get to sound, solid money. The second thing is that I led the fight, a real tax revolt on behalf of small businesses whom the Liberal government was trying to tax with new and punishing tax measures. So we were able to get them to back off a lot of that. And then the final thing is that I led the campaign to axe the carbon tax and was able to get the government to cancel part of the tax. Of course, there's still many carbon taxes in place, but some of them have been suspended. And I want to go all the way and axe the carbon taxes for everyone, for real, for good.
That's wonderful. You know, when you do that, sometimes you run the risk, you come up with an idea and somebody else steals it at the last minute. I mean, you can't help it sometimes, but still, you're doing your job. That's exactly, you're motivating, basically.
Yes.
But how does it make you feel? Because the initiation really came from you with respect to carbon tax.
Yes, I mean, when I said we should axe the carbon tax, Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau, they said, the whole world will light on fire if we get rid of the carbon tax. And of course, that never made any sense. And Mr. Carney was saying he wanted to raise the tax even higher just this weekend. He said it's good textbook policy to have a carbon tax. But we won the debate with Canadians who demanded its elimination. And now at least the visible part of the carbon taxes is suspended. And we continue because there's an industrial carbon tax that raises food prices and kills steel and cement jobs. There's another fuel tax that's rising on our diesel and gasoline under Mr. Carney. And there are other fuel taxes that they're applying. I want to get rid of all of them. We need affordable, abundant energy. That's how you defeat poverty. If you can power your economy with cheap, abundant, reliable, Canadian-made energy. And that's part of my mission. We should be the greatest producer of energy in the world. We have it all. We have hydro, oil, gas, nuclear, all of it here in Canada. Let's unleash the production, unlock those resources, and make Canada the richest, most energy abundant country on planet Earth.
What are the salient features of common sense conservatism?
You don't spend what you don't have. That's the first thing. Right. So living within your means. Second is that $1 in the hands of the person who earned it is always more powerful than in the hands of the politician or bureaucrat who taxed it.
Wow.
Third, free enterprise. To say, allow the free and voluntary exchange of work for wages, product for payment, investment for interest. Free exchange between entrepreneurs, consumers, and workers. Get the government out of the way and let people do business. It's like when you sell advertising. Well, the company believes that it's getting more value for the ad they put on your programming than it costs to buy.
Right.
And for you, the money you get for the ad is worth more than the work you have to do to provide that ad. And so both of you are better off. You have an apple and want an orange. I have an orange and want an apple. And we trade. Well, we're both better off.
Right.
Even though we still have an apple and orange between us.
Sure, it's the old barter system.
That's the free enterprise system, because we both agreed to do the exchange. We must be better off for having done it.
Sure.
And that's why whenever you go buy a coffee, you have the double thank you. You say thank you to the lady selling it to you, and she doesn't say you're welcome. She says thank you back, because she's better off with the money, you're better off with the coffee. By contrast, nobody ever writes thank you on their tax form.
Right.
Because even though it's technically an exchange, it's done by force. So I believe free enterprise is common sense. It's the greatest system for the material improvement of human beings ever invented.
Shan will join us after this break. Do stay with us.
You're against authoritative socialism. What
That's
does
right.
that really mean?
Authoritarian socialism, well, all socialism is really authoritarian, because everything the government does, it does by force. Now, obviously, it has to apply some force to take criminals off our street, or to require people pay for national defense, policing, border security, basic safety net. But on the continuum between freedom and force, I think we should be as close to freedom as possible. Let people decide what to do with their money, what their speech, their faith, their views, their thoughts. All of that should be in the hands of the free and sovereign individual, rather than controlled top-down by bureaucrats and politicians. I believe in the wisdom of the common people. And whereas authoritarian socialism, which is something Mr. Carney supports, believes there's a small elite group at the top who concentrate all the money, all the wealth, and all the power, and they decide for everyone else. And everywhere that has been tried, it has led to human misery and grinding poverty, except for the people on top. Whereas a bottom-up, free enterprise, meritocracy is what we should all seek to restore here and everywhere.
You support immigration and socialized health care. Two positive things. Elaborate on that.
Well, I support a basic safety net for the people who can't provide for themselves. And the great thing about a free enterprise economy is it generates so much wealth that you can devote some of it to providing a basic safety net to others who would not be able to afford it. So that includes primary health care, free of charge to the recipient, and prompt, good, high-quality health care delivered to everybody, regardless of their wealth or poverty. I think that we should have good, decent public schools, roads, police, the basics. And, you know, this is where I disagree with our liberal and socialist friends. They believe in government doing all kinds of other unrelated things that ends up wasting money and bankrupting our ability to fund the basics. I believe the government should do a few things right rather than doing a lot of things poorly. So let's have schools, hospitals, roads, police, the basics. Devote our attention and our money to that, do that really well, and then let people keep the rest of their money for themselves and their families. And then you get the best of both worlds.
You know, you're very patriotic. You always believe in the philosophy of putting Canada first.
That's right.
Elaborate on that one, and especially under the existing circumstances of the unfortunate situation with the tariff around the world, not only Canada,
Yes.
but United States tariff, because if each country decides to put their own country first, to a certain extent it's understandable, but 5 fingers in your hand is not the same length, so people obviously, you know, people are equal, but some are more equal than the others, you know. Tell us, how would you go about it?
Well, Canada first means that that the Prime Minister of the country needs always to ask what is in Canada's interests first and foremost, and should never act against our interests for the benefit of any foreign country. Canada first means that when people come to Canada, they join the Canadian family. And it doesn't matter if their name is Poilievre or Patel, Singh or Smith, Chang or Chong. When they come here, they're Canadian, period.
Absolutely.
My wife is from Venezuela. She's a refugee, but she's Canadian first.
Wonderful.
And above all else, without hyphens. But it also means on the world stage that our foreign policy should be about protecting our interests above and beyond any other country. It means that we should use our resources, unlock our incredible resources as a geostrategic superpower. That means producing and exporting more oil, gas, nuclear, civilian nuclear, and other resources to enrich our people and to influence geopolitics in Canada's national interest. I've announced we will be introducing a Canadian Sovereignty Act, which will make this the fastest place in the world to approve a pipeline, a mine, a liquefied natural gas plant, all of that. We're going to bring back the trillions of dollars of energy production and jobs to this country,
Fantastic.
which will bolster our security, our safety net, and it will mean that we are respected in the world. Right now, the rest of the world feels it can kick Canada around because our economy is so weak, and the Liberals have demolished our military. By having a strong resource economy that supplies the world with essentials at our will, we can fund a stronger military and we can put our country first.
Fantastic. I think Canada is one of the finest countries in the world. It's really amazing in such an affluent nation. There's been a huge change from the time during the Expo 67 days when I was a student, arrived in this country.
Yes.
The atmosphere compared to what it is today.
What have you noticed has changed?
Well, urban centers. I mean, frankly,
Yeah.
when you're walking down, you've got homelessness, which was hardly ever seen in those days.
Right.
And you have drug addicts walking in there in the open. How do we solve this? What exactly, where is the prognosis for this?
Well, it's very simple. All of the things you've just described have been the result of 10 years of Liberal government. Their policy of printing money. Let's start with housing and all the homelessness. Out of control money printing and immigration boosted demand, while government bureaucracy blocked the supply of new housing. So what happens when demand explodes and supply is restrained? The price goes up, and they doubled housing prices. Now families can't begin, husband, I just met a young couple today at a restaurant, and the young lady said, we're leaving Canada. They can't afford to start a family here. So they're leaving our country to start a family in the United States of America. I hear this story every single day. Young people leaving because they can't afford a home after 10 years of Liberal policies on housing that have doubled housing. Then we have crime. Well, you have Liberal crime laws that allow the repeat violent offenders to be turned loose onto our streets again and again and again. They allow you can be a rapist, and a gun criminal, an extortionist, and you can do your sentence in your living room. You get automatic bail within an hour of being arrested, even if it's your 150th time being arrested. These are all Liberal laws.
That's why you introduce jail, not bail.
That's right. Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, let's lock up the criminals for good. It's jail, not bail. Jail, not bail means that anyone with 3 offenses is ineligible for bail, parole, probation, or house arrest. 0 chance of getting out of jail. It will be a life sentence. And we're going to bring in life sentences for fentanyl dealers who are murderers. 20 milligrams of fentanyl can kill 10 people.
Wow.
It's only 2 milligrams for it to stop your lungs. So my view is if you're caught dealing that amount, you go to jail forever, life sentence. We're going to bring in life sentences for gun smugglers. We're going to lock up criminals and throw away the key under my plan. We're going to make homes affordable again. Take all taxes off homes, home building. We have, we're 40 or 50% of a new home is just taxes and red tape. Let's get rid of all that. You can cut housing costs in half if you do that. And that's what I'm going to do.
Shan will join us after this break. Do stay with us.
I do believe in people changing for the better. Even, the criminals should be given a chance sometimes to rehabilitate themselves. I do believe in that hopefully people can change for the better. But there is a lot of them that have very high recidivism rate in crime. So the judicial discrepancy across the country is quite strong. You're introducing 2 bills in which you actually found some problems. From what I heard, Bill C5 and Bill C75.
That's right.
So tell me about your comment, especially for violent crimes, like carjackings of violent nature, armed robberies, home invasions. All these kind of things have been tremendously increasing. What is the solution?
Repeal the liberal crime laws. So there's liberal house arrest in C5. You can be a child sex offender, an extortionist, a gun criminal, and even if you're convicted, you get house arrest. So you don't go to jail, you go to your living room. I joke that someone can get caught stealing 100 cars and they get to stay at home and watch Netflix or play Grand Theft Auto in their living room and walk out the front door anytime they want to reoffend. And I would get rid of that. No more house arrest. Serious crime will mean serious time. Bail. My view is, I understand the theory of bail, which is that you're innocent until proven guilty. You've been charged, but you haven't been convicted, so the system says, well, we can't hold someone until they've been convicted. Fair enough. But once someone has 3 prior convictions and they're newly arrested for a 4th time, they've already got convictions. We know this person has in the past been guilty, and now they're in hot water again. I would say they should not be eligible for bail. And that if you did that right there, you would cut off so much of the crime. In Vancouver, they had to arrest the same 40 offenders 6,000 times.
Wow, my God.
So each offender was arrested 150 times per year. That means every 2 days, the same guy is arrested. And those are just the crimes for which he got caught. How many other times did he do crimes? We could be talking about 10 or 20,000 crimes committed by 40 people. You take those 40 people off the street, you have 10,000 fewer crimes in Vancouver alone in 1 year. That's how bad it is. The good news is we don't have a lot of criminals in Canada. The bad news is that the small number are very productive. We have a tiny group that does a phenomenal amount of crime. So if you keep them in jail, they won't be able to reoffend. And I agree with you. Somebody makes one mistake in their life, fair enough. Let's take them in, get them off drugs, give them treatment, counseling, a skill, teach them a trade, get them into a job, and say, go forward and contribute. You have a second chance. They commit another offense, maybe they get one last chance. But the 3rd time, that's it. And that's why I call it 3 strikes and you're out.
Absolutely. Now, I think Canadians are too nice because this is really interesting. When I came here as a young student, in those days, I noticed this is probably the only affluent country in the world where the jury is locked up when the criminal is running around free on bail. So
Exactly.
Obviously there's something wrong with the system, obviously.
That's right.
Tell me about the new legislation that Arpan Khanna.
Yes, Arpan Khanna is our Member of Parliament for Oxford. He is a great Member of Parliament, one of the best members of Parliament in Canada. He's brought in a toughened bail law. It will repeal liberal bail, and it will ensure that, for example, there's a liberal principle. It's called restraint, which means the judge has to restrain himself rather than restraining the criminal. It says that the judge must release the offender at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. And Mr. Khanna is saying, no. The primary responsibility of the bail hearing is to protect the public against the potential crime. So he's going to get rid of that and oblige the judge to first and foremost protect the security of the people rather than the liberation of the accused criminal. Secondly, he wants to make sure there's actually a bail, that they actually post a bond, they put money in. And third, he wants to say that you can't have a criminal sign as a guarantor. Right now, you can have someone who's actually a criminal go and help a fellow criminal get bail. He wants to get rid of that. So Arpan's bill is going to be excellent. It will mean jail and not bail for repeat offenders, and that will mean safer communities across the Greater Toronto Area and Canada.
Earlier you spoke about food, the cost of food, price
Yes.
going up, cost of groceries price going up. If you were the Prime Minister right now, what would be the first step that you would do to correct this?
Stop taxing groceries. There's many hidden taxes that the federal Liberal government imposes on our groceries. So there's the industrial carbon tax, still in place, applies on farm equipment and fertilizer that raises the price of food. You have the fuel standard, which is raising diesel and gas prices for our farmers and truckers who bring us food. I get rid of that too. Then you have the food packaging tax. The Liberal government is starting a ban and a penalty on plastic packaging. Now, say you don't want to have plastic packaging. Well, the food then goes bad quicker and it becomes more expensive to feed people. You know, if the groceries are having spoiled food, they have to raise the prices to cover the cost of that. I would get rid of that food packaging tax. And then there's the inflation tax, which is when the government runs these enormous deficits, prints money to pay for it, bids up all the goods we buy, and food is one of the most expensive as a result. And if you get rid of all of the Liberal taxes on groceries, you will have far more affordable food, nutritious, delicious meals like the ones I grew up with. My school teacher parents struggled sometimes, but we always had beautiful meals with meat and potatoes on our plate, and I want that for every kid growing up.
It's interesting you mentioned about your school days. You know, you played hockey. You went.
Yeah.
You know, you liked camps as well, by the way.
Yes,
you know,
we loved
summer
the camp.
camps, and you played football and wrestling.
That's right.
Now, at that time, what did you want to be?
Well, my first goal was to be an NHL hockey player, and then I wasn't good enough for that. So then I thought I would go into wrestling and football, hurt myself, and that's why I ended up getting into politics. But I think every Canadian kid at some point dreams of being an NHL superstar, and but I had to settle for politics instead.
Yeah, you're very media savvy. Where did you acquire that skill?
Well, I don't know. I try to be myself. I try to be authentic and true. And I do a lot of research on facts. Like we focus a lot in my office on researching the key facts in any subject, because I believe that facts win arguments. So I try to be the most factual person in the debate, and I think that's why we've been able to win the arguments on the carbon tax, on inflation, crime, natural resources, drugs. Everyone sort of agrees that the Conservatives were right on all those things, and it's because we have bombarded them with facts. So focus on facts, and in the end you win the debate.
You know, many years ago, there were in-camera sessions, and they were, you know, Parliament, you know, whatever happened there, they were not even seen outside. But ever since, your live sessions have now been telecast, you know, live or across the country.
Yes.
It's really interesting how the presentations have changed. People, you know, react to each other very spontaneously.
Yes.
So tell me about this important move as to how it has changed the way the Parliament operates.
Well, I think it's important to make Parliament interesting so that the people will watch it. The House of Commons is it is meant to be a place of verbal combat. That's why it's two different sides. It is meant to make the most powerful people in the country tremble every time they walk in the door. It's not meant to be a club where everyone gets along. We have places in the world where all the politicians get along. They're called dictatorships. They're terrible places to live. So people say to me, you know, why can't you all get along in there? That's not how Parliament was created. It's two sides. It's not even the American system's a half circle. It's two sides. Why? Because it is expected that His Majesty's loyal opposition will hold the government to account. And you know, it's interesting, that name. I am the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition. I said that to Joe Biden when he came to Canada. I said, I'm Pierre Poilievre, leader of the loyal opposition. He said, loyal opposition? Isn't that a contradiction? And I said, no. In our system, the British model we inherited sees opposition as an act of loyalty, because if the government is unopposed, absolute power will corrupt absolutely. The job of the opposition is loyal to the people and to the crown. And so I take that job very seriously, and I think that countries, you know why it matters? Because you say, well, how can opposition be positive? It forces the government to ask itself, boy, if I make this mistake, if I waste money, if I do something corrupt, then I'm going to be held accountable. I will be hauled before Parliament and millions of people will see me exposed. So it creates an incentive for the government to do the right thing on the front end. And that is why this job is so important.
Shan will join us after this break. Do stay with us.
As a young person yourself, you thought globally and acted locally by concentrating and studying international relations as your main subject for your degree. Today, in that same context in Canada, how would you rate our diplomatic relations in terms of external affairs with other countries around the world?
Oh, it's terrible right now. I mean, it was bad under Mr. Trudeau, but it's gotten much worse under Mr. Carney. He's sort of, he's trying to confuse activity with achievement. He's buzzing around in his airplane, but despite 14 international trips, he hasn't achieved anything. He hasn't removed a single tariff by a foreign country on Canada. In fact, American tariffs on Canada have doubled since Carney took office, promising to get rid of them. The Chinese government has smelled weakness, and they've hit us with new tariffs on our farmers and fish harvesters. Our country is losing, hemorrhaging investment in the energy sector, which has taken away the leverage we should have using our resources. We're still waiting to see the great diplomatic genius that Mark Carney promised. What has he done? He ran on this campaign of elbows up. His elbows seem to have gone missing as President Trump continues to bulldoze over him and impose new tariffs while Mr. Carney makes concessions. So we're in a very difficult position with a very weak Prime Minister who, while the media loves to give him gushing praise for these useless and pointless trips that he does, they look very authoritative because there's a flag and there's a beautiful oak table. They don't actually achieve anything. What we need to do is get away from the show business of world affairs and get to the real business. And that means rebuilding our military, retaking the North with Poseidon aircraft, fighter jets, submarines, at least 2 full northern bases, a much bigger ground army, massively expanding our reserve forces and training our reservists in cybersecurity, AI, drone technology, all of that backed by a booming economy, a booming resource economy. That would make us really powerful in the world, because people would say the Canadians have got a serious, tough armed forces, and they've got the resources that power a modern economy. We better be on their good side.
Last but not least, you've got a lovely family. Tell me about your family. 2 children, so tell me about your family.
Well, I'm very blessed. So we have the exceptional and beautiful Valentina. Valentina is now turning 7 in just a few weeks.
Oh, lovely.
And she is extremely acrobatic. She loves to climb, jump, run, bike. She's extremely charming. That's which is dangerous, for a father, because at the end of the day, she can get anything she wants from her dad. Her mother is much tougher on her, but Dad can't say no to Valentina. But she is a very special little girl, and the thing I love most about her is that she's real. She's got some special needs, but one of the special gifts she has is that she doesn't fake anything. So you always know where you stand with her, and she's incredibly loving, and everybody who meets Valentina loves her. Our little guy Cruz he's changed his name to Spider-Man. Oh. And so he dresses as Spider-Man. He's got the socks, the pants, the shirt, the backpack, the lunch pail. When he did his first day of school the other day, he told his teacher that he wanted to be called Spider-Man. And so she's agreed, and they call him Spider-Man at school. And the other day, he made a coffee for his mother. He got up in the morning. Somehow he got up on the counter, put the capsule in the machine, pressed the button. He actually mixed her milk in the foaming machine.
Wow.
And we couldn't figure out how he got the milk because it's so high up in the fridge. And so he did this all by himself. He's about that tall.
Wow.
So we said, Cruz, how did you get the milk? It doesn't make sense. And he said, well, I shot my spider web out of my wrist and I pulled the milk down. And I wasn't there to see it, so I can't prove him wrong, but that was his explanation.
Fantastic.
If only we had had a camera to see that. But he's a really smart kid. He loves to ask questions. He's constantly asking questions. Yesterday, the other day, he wanted to know how aluminum was made.
Wow.
So we sat there on YouTube for 20 minutes looking at how you turn bauxite into aluminum.
Wow.
And so he loves to ask questions. I love to answer them. And of course, my brilliant wife, she came here as a refugee from Venezuela when she was just a little girl. She left home at age 17. She only spoke English and French when she left home. She was in Ottawa, and she got a job at Best Buy, and her boss said, you are going to go to the English part of Ottawa to sell electronics.
Wow.
And she said, I don't speak English. Mm-hmm. And he said, exactly, you're going to learn. And so, she had a little bit of English in her brain from listening to music and pop culture, but very quickly she picked it up and she managed to sell electronics in English. And she paid her own rent, paid her own way through university. She's a problem solver, a fighter, an entrepreneur, very intelligent and very feisty. She's got a lot of street smarts, right, because she's had to. And that is a big blessing for me. So that's my wonderful family.
That's wonderful.
They keep me going.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, may God bless you and your family. When you love what you do, work becomes worship.
That's right.
And so I can see that in you as well. But what do you do in your spare time? Just to relax, what do you do?
I basically have three things. I have family, exercise, and reading. Those are the things I spend my time on.
Wow.
I enjoy exercising, and I enjoy reading books, and I enjoy playing with my kids. My philosophy is that you either do a few things right or you do a lot of things poorly. So I narrow my focus on the things that matter most to me, and they are my family, my work, and a few hobbies, and that keeps me going.
You're an extraordinary achiever. We are very honored and proud to have you on the show with us. We'd love to invite you back sometime soon.
Thank you, and congratulations on your success. It's amazing what you've built here from scratch.
It's very kind of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And many blessings to your family and your listeners, and I look forward to joining you again soon.
It'll be a pleasure.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.